Welcome back to another reading and correcting with me, Kinder, the Tiger Knights, and Ty, the Tiger Supervisor. These are where I read a chapter from one of my stories and correct it as I go. If you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch, and if you're looking to support me, that is on my Patreon. Today we're doing chapter 18 of Feeling the Way. The ranch style house is this is I gotta remember that, is large, but with minimal security cameras, so the occupant no. Oh boy, that's gonna be who's approaching, but no gate, no wall except for the fence keeping the quad bovines and equines from running off. You going to be with royal security, Mr. Cartwright? Elias asks. You just can't stop teasing me about it. I've explained. I've explained why I'm not. I've explained why I'm not, and or as part of the security company. Being identified as the son's owner wouldn't be helpful, but he just finds it hilarious that me, Mighty Orr, has an alias. No, I press the buzzer. This is gonna be slow because I press the buzzer immediately. The door opens, and a rhino. Wait, no, wait a minute. Am I screwing? I think I'm screwing this up. Right. It's it's past when he's telling the story. It's present when he's interjecting. Okay, we're gonna redo this. There was. It will. New. Who was approaching? No gate, no wall except to keep. Except for the fence keeping the bat from running off. Guerrero asked. I just couldn't. Stop teasing me about it. I'd explained why I wasn't. Never supposed your company. Being identified wouldn't be helpful, but he just found it. Hilarious that me and Mighty Orr had an alias. No, I pressed the buzzer and immediately the door opened. Okay, this is the last. All right. Opened and a rhino that would make Uncle Dietrich hire him on the spot and give his head trainer the boner to handle boners. Looked. Of course, now I'm doing that. Over. Wyatt Orr, I'm here to speak with your boss. Mr. Abram isn't accepting visitors without an appointment. The rhino replied and made to close the door. I put my hand on it and it stopped. The man didn't show the effort he put in pushing on it, but I could feel him trying. I smiled. Unless your boss wants to explain to the FBI why he helped the child molester and killer, he's going to explain it to me. And if I don't like his answer, he's not going to have to worry about explaining anything to anyone ever. Elias raised an eyebrow, and the rhino reached for the gun at his hip. Texan and their guns. Let him in, Walter. Let him in, Walter. A reedy voice came from the man's radio clipped on his other side. Radio? In this day and age? The rhino wasn't happy, but he escorted us to a bedroom, and I heard the sound of machines before I saw them. Joseph Abram lay on a bed surrounded by them. He looked nothing like the picture in the bio I'd found. There, he was a strong and proud man. Here, He was frail, still defiant, but without strength. You have some explaining to do, I told him. Of course, I care. He's dying. I can't help that part of myself, but the man provided a child molester housing to select his target from, and to perform his twisted rituals. I won't let his old age influence me. He raised an eyebrow. Do I? I don't think you're the police. I stepped closer and the rhino interposed himself. It's all right, Walter. The rhino glowered, but moved away. What kind of monster are you? I demanded. He laughed quickly. Oh, that's right, coming from you, Mr. Wyatt Orr. Considering the things that your family has done, you should clean your own house before you complain about how messy someone else's is. So you know who I am. Good. Then you know, if you don't answer to my satisfaction, there's nothing that guy can do to keep me from snapping your neck. Oh, joy, the man said, threatening my life. Look around. It's already under threat. These tell me you aren't ready to give up yet, I commented. So you don't want me to kill you. And to be clear, my house is clean. We don't go around helping child killer. Of course you don't. The buffalo said derisively and looked at Elias. I don't recognize you. Are you a Chuteau? I started. You think I'd work with one of those assholes? You know about the Chuteau? Elias asked. The society? And the Thinker, the Sisters, the Green Man, and others. I may be old, but I'm not stupid. When the world changes around me, I learn everything I can about it. I'm Elias Johns. I'm helping Wyatt investigate the disappearance of 5 boys 8 years ago. He owns you, you mean? I'm afraid I don't understand. The other replies. The old man rolled his eyes. The Orrs own people. They don't have friends. They don't seek help. They demand it, and if you don't give it, they make you pay. I didn't contradict him, and the man seemed surprised. Your information isn't entirely accurate, Elias said, but the status of my relationship with Wyatt isn't relevant. You provided housing to a murderer. I'm curious how you justify your actions. You think I knew what he was planning? I didn't read anything about you coming forward with information, Elias said. The man frowned at him. I didn't think the police worked with people like him. Didn't you say he owned me? Wouldn't he not give me a choice? Elias was enjoying himself. He didn't get to play around with truth during a normal investigation, but as nice as it was watching him, that wasn't why we were here. What did he tell you he was doing? I demanded. The buffalo turned his gaze on me. What is the information worth to you? You didn't just go there, Elias said. You don't understand the situation, I told the man. I'm not paying for the information. The absolute best result you can expect is me to leave here satisfied you were used and weren't colluding with wannabe. The man beamed. I have something you want, so I have the power here. I looked at the closest machine. The controls for the breathing assist that was keeping the man alive. The on-off switch was nicely marked. I flicked it off, then held the rhino by the neck as he came to turn it back on. In your research on my family, did you read up on one of my fathers, Arthur? I didn't get to meet him. He was murdered outside a child's hospital, so I read up on him. The man's eyes grew wide. He was already gasping for breath. I have an affinity to learn stuff, and as part of learning about my dead father, I read a good number of medical books. I'm no doctor myself, but I know enough to know which of these machines can hurt you the most if I turn it off. This one will kill you if I let it go long enough. I flicked it back on and leaned in to look in the man's eyes. So don't you think you have anything resembling power here? I'm an Orr. I can live without getting what I want out of this meeting. You can't. The man's fear was muted by weakness and pain. He might even think I couldn't see it. You don't scare me. I flicked the machine off again. Then you don't know my family as well as you think you do. Wyatt, Elias said, you can't do this. The smile I gave him wasn't pleasant. I can and I am. You knew what it might come to when you agreed to help. He's an old man. I have no problem with you doing anything you want to be, but he's just someone who was used. I flicked the machine back on, and Elias thought he got through to me. The old man couldn't speak, but it couldn't. The old man couldn't speak if he couldn't breathe. Rich folks aren't used, Elias. They use people. The old man let out a weak laugh. And here you are, using him. I am. He knew it. He might not understand how far I'd go, and if it got to be too much, he'd leave. I looked down at the buffalo. You see, the big difference between you and my family is that we have no problem admitting the kind of assholes we are. We're not worried about appearing nice, so when we are, we mean it. When we aren't, we're just being ourselves. I reached for the machine switch. I don't feel like being nice right now. Wait, the man said, tone desperate. I smiled. Good. We finally understand each other. I let go of the rhino and he immediately swung at me. I had him on the floor and standing before. I had him on the floor. I had. Okay. I had him on the floor. Oh, and was standing before the rhino understood he was unconscious from his head impacting the hardwood floor. The hardwood. You know what? So, wannabe? The old man looked like he'd try to deal for a deal again, but as I reached for the switch, he said, he told me his name was Stephen Mullen. He's a jaguar. I didn't try to find out if it was his real name. He promised me a cure for this. He motioned to himself, the machines around him. I'm dying. I have been for a very long time. For a long time. And you believed him? Elias asked. You wouldn't? The buffalo replied. Have you looked around? Magic is real. Why wouldn't I believe him? There are others who offer proven method, he nodded to me, and become his family's slave? I didn't make it to where I am by bending over for other people. No, you inherited your health, I said. He said he'd keep you from dying. I'm guessing you found out he lied when he just upped and vanished after killing the boys. He didn't lie, the buffalo said. He's still perfecting the process. That's what he told me when he left. The police were starting to pay too much attention, and there's only so much I can do to get them to look elsewhere. He's trying to perfect what? Immortality? Elias asked in disbelief. I went over, I thought, over the symbols, the ones in the buildings and the ones at the farmhouse. 8 years of evolution. It gave me an idea of where Wannabe was heading with them, and they still made little sense. They weren't aiming toward any symbol I recognize. Of course, I'm not an expert in magic, but I do know one. I checked the time, did the conversion. It was very early in Kenya. If I had the luxury, I'd call him directly. Instead, I called the palace. Odingar residence, an official sounding woman, answered in Swahili. This is Wyatt Orr of the San Francisco Orr. I answered in the same language. Is the king available? It is late here, Mr. Orr. She was still speaking Swahili, which told me she wasn't pleased. I know, and I offer my sincere apologies. If I was in a position to wait, I would have. I will see if he's willing to speak with you. Singing replaced her. I was on hold. Who are you calling? Elias asked. The buffalo was watching me intently. Did he understand Swahili? Fredodinga, if anyone can tell me if those symbols mean anything, it's going to be him. Wouldn't the thinker know? I shrugged. I haven't fucked any of the thinkers I know. You've had sex with the Kenyan king? I rolled my eyes. I had sex with him before he was crowned. It's only been 10 years. Wyatt? The lion came over the phone. Man, it's been a while. How are you doing? I made out groans and grunts, but they grew faint, and he realized he spoke English. I hope I'm not interrupting anything important. Nah, just resolving complaints between people. Frank can deal with them for a while. How can I help? Can you look at some pictures for me and give me your professional opinion? Send them? I did, and a minute later, he spoke again. What am I looking at? I'm investigating a serial killer, and he left those symbols behind. The ones in blood were under a month ago. The scratching was 8 years. I never took you for someone caring about stuff like this. Obsidian Black put me on the trail, and they wouldn't have done that without a good reason. Who? Right, you wouldn't know about them. They're the hacker who took over for Emerald. Wasn't she one of Merlin's people? Yeah, no one's sure who Black is. No one's sure who Black is, and even if they're with, or even if they're with Merlin or another faction, all I know is that they don't bug me without reason. I know those aren't sigils, but can they be symbols from another faction? I don't recognize them from anything I read, except for one. I received a file. A zoom section of the bloody wall of the farmhouse. That looks a lot like a symbol I saw in a book years ago, but it shouldn't be possible. Okay, the only time I've known you to not outright say something, it was really bad news. Do you remember the story about Sahatan? Oh, you have got to be fucking kidding me. Look, it could be a coincidence. Satan is no more, we know that for sure. But someone took his place, someone related to me on top of that. Yes, but Damien has never been seen on the earthly plane. He killed all of Satan's followers in his coup, which left him with no one to power him. But that doesn't mean he's dead. That doesn't mean he died. Our God starved for a long time, the way gods count time, before the society found him. So it's possible I'm dealing with a fucking god of sacrifice. Tibbs didn't say anything, which made Elias stare hard to ignore. He took out his phone, and I grabbed it out of his hand with a shake of the head. The glare he gave me was not happy. Fred let out a breath. Okay, dealing with gods screws up my calculation, but it's one symbol among a lot that are nonsense. It's possible it's just luck, or maybe your killer came across something online. A lot of junk appeared online after Diamond, and among all of it, there's a few gems. It's nearly impossible to prevent truth from finding its way now that people are actively searching for it. I miss the days when no one believed in magic. So your expert opinion, I say, fixing Alias with my gaze, is that this isn't a sign that Damien is correct. That's correct. Sorry, that Damien is involved. That's correct. I raised an eyebrow and the other nodded. I handed him his phone. I handed back his phone, looking at what's there. Do you think the guy's getting close to accomplishing what he set out to? Set out to? Fred is quiet. No, that's basically meaningless. Oh, you're with someone and you don't want him to realize. He chuckled. Man, I miss those days. But no, this is junk. The one thing you need to consider, and this is an outside chance on the same level as your uncle appearing next to you for a fuck, is that if he's magical, his perseverance could empower what he's doing. Magic isn't science. The Hertz kid proved that it's possible to change what we think are laws of magic. I glanced next to me before I could stop. Or I could stop myself and shuddered at the idea Damien might be there. Might be related to me, but no one in my family thinks of him as such. Even before he made himself a god, my fathers had disowned him for taking over the great church and going to war against us. Okay, I'll keep this in mind. Thanks, Fred. If you ever make it stateside, let me know. I'll make space in my bed for you and your brother. Yeah, if I can ever escape the palatial life, I will visit you. The next part was muffled by his hand. You're the one insisting I need to stay here for my safety. I had no say in it. And so don't be surprised if I look for a way out of anything, a way out any time you aren't fucking me. He was back. Anyway, Frank's being an asshole again, so I gotta go and plug it. He disconnected. The buffalo couldn't hide his eagerness. He said he left, I said, putting my phone away. Did he say where he was going? How close is he to succeeding? That isn't how this works, I told him, smiling. You want something? You have to pay for it. Where did he go? He said he was heading, there was something in Denver that could help him. Denver. Why, oh, why am I not surprised? I nod. Why, oh, why wasn't? Why, oh, why wasn't I surprised? I nodded and leaned to his ear. The guy conned you. He was never doing anything magical. He's just a sick bastard, and you're one too, for thinking anything is worth the life of children. I reached for the switch as I watched the despair fill his face, then stopped. The news was destroying him. If I killed him, I was ending his suffering. The guy didn't deserve that mercy. I left him there. Denver, Elias said once we were outside. I nodded. I had my reason to visit Eddie, but what were the odds I'd be able to avoid his father? I can go there with you. I shook my head. I doubt Bowden men will let you. That's Brislow territory. Thought the Cormorants were the official head of Colorado in the area. They are, but whoever runs security is who you have to worry about. In Colorado, that's the Brislow family. You know Bowden man is in his elder's bed. Is in their elder's bed, right? Yeah, they go way back. From before there was a Brislow family, is my understanding. He and my family have a history. We also have one with the Brislow. My visit there, it won't be fun. You guys are going to have sex. That sounds fun to me, no matter how angry it is. I smiled. It's the rest of my time there that isn't going to be fun. At least Eddie would make a lot of that bearable. And that concludes chapter 18 of Feeling the Way. If you're enjoying this, please leave a like. If you want to know when the next chapter is going to be up, subscribe, hit the bell. And if you want to read the story, well, that's on my Patreon. That's the only place where this is currently available, and there's no plan to publish this. If you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch. Links are in the note, and with that, I shall wish you a good day.